name is Rosie and I am here today at Visibly Sold, and today we're going to talk about the 5 mistakes that I made when I started reselling. So let's get into it. So mistake number 1, I did not calculate my shipping. So this is very specifically when I was working with eBay. Just buy yourself a shipping scale. You will not regret it. I definitely guarantee it. When I started on eBay, I basically underestimated the amount of weight a pair of shoes had, and that caused me to spend a lot of extra money on shipping that I didn't expect, and then I basically lost money on the sale. So the moral of that story is that when you are shipping on eBay, you have to make sure that your shipping costs that you estimate are actually the shipping costs you're going to pay. This one has replaceable batteries, but I would recommend getting one that plugs into the wall so you don't have to replace the batteries all the time. So I definitely say invest in a scale. It will pay for itself in the shipping costs that you're going to save when you eventually underestimate how much something weighs and pay it afterwards, and then lose money on your sale. So that is tip number 1. Look at your shipping. Another fun fact about shipping, I don't know, is this a fun fact? Is shipping fun? For resellers, shipping is fun. So when you're shipping something that's under a pound, it's going to be significantly cheaper than something that's over 1 pound. Even the difference between 14 ounces and 16 ounces can be something really, really different because of first class USPS shipping. So shipping under a pound that you can ship USPS first class, they don't let you ship certain things like, per se, alcohol or drugs or, like illegal things or things that could like explode. But if you can get something first class shipped, it's going to be a lot cheaper. But do not pretend that something that's like 1.1 pounds is actually 1 pound, because they sometimes weigh your package and then they will make sure that either the person who receives the package or you on the other end ends up paying for the difference. And it is not a good look to send something to your buyer and then they have to pay excess shipping when they get it. So make sure that you're telling the truth on your shipping labels, that you're planning ahead, and you're not getting bit in the butt by surprise shipping costs. So number 2, I mixed up 3 different packages on Black Friday. Yeah. It was one of my first times that I was shipping out over 10 packages. I think I had like 11 or 12 going out, and I mixed up shipping labels on 3 of them. Luckily / unluckily, it was with eBay, so I was able to give them shipping labels and they just shipped it to me, and then I shipped it back to the other person. It was very convoluted and I lost a lot of money. But I want to say shout out to those buyers, because my customer service must have been okay, because they all left me really, really nice, sweet reviews, even though it took them like 3 months to get their stuff. It was like December by the time they got there, so I guess it's only like a month and a half. But anyway, it was very dramatic, and story short, make sure before you stick that label down onto your package that the item inside your package is corresponding with the item that you're shipping out with the label. Make sure that those 2 things are aligned, because otherwise you will end up doing this weird customer service dance between 3 people all over the country, or even out of the country if you're unlucky enough, and good luck on that one. So that is my advice to you. Make sure you pay attention when you're sticking on your shipping labels. All right, number 3 is something that I admittedly still struggle with once in a while. It is organization of inventory. It is super important that you keep your inventory organized, because if you sell something, you probably want to be able to find it, to pack it up and ship it so you can get your money, instead of just, spending 5 hours looking for something you have no idea where it is or whether you even have it or not. So one of the ways that you can do that is just make sure you have a really organized inventory system. Don't just throw things into boxes or bins. Try to make like a label system. Poshmark has this really awesome feature where if you go to the very bottom, and there's these extra stats that you can put in. And so you can put an inventory number, and that's going to be really helpful if you have multiple items. So you can make sure, like, you can say I put it in the pink bin, or I put it on the yellow bin, or I put it in the garage. Even just like little notes can be helpful later as far as finding that item. So I would definitely recommend making sure that your inventory stays managed and organized, and don't let it pile up and pile up and pile up, because then that's less likely that you're going to actually get it done, because then it's just going to become an overwhelming task, and you will thank yourself later when you actually sell that item and are able to find it in a relatively normal amount of time. So that is tip number 3 for you guys, is just make sure that you keep your inventory managed. Mistake number 4 here is that I didn't look things up before I listed or bought them. So I didn't look at comps. Whenever you sell an item, it's important to see what other items very similar to your item are selling at, so you don't end up selling a pair of, let's say, trending Adidas sneakers for $30 like I did. So I know I probably could have gotten like $60 to $80 out of these sneakers if I had just looked to see, you know, what the model name of the sneaker was, but it was just kind of over my head at that point. It was one of the first sales I ever made online, and so I cut myself a little bit of slack. But make sure you're always looking up, you know, if you have a Ralph Lauren sweater, just do a Google for Ralph Lauren sweater on Google or Poshmark, Mercari, and just see kind of what the used market is, and base your price off of that. If you think your sweater is rare, price it on the higher end. If you think your sweater is in great condition, you can price it on the higher end. But if it's maybe it's got some pilling or some holes, maybe you're gonna list it at the lower end of the spectrum to make sure you make that sale. So just look at other items in the marketplace and see how much money they're actually selling for. A really good example is Free People items. My Goodwill, I don't source at it because it's like $60 for a Free People cardigan at this Goodwill, and I will get you pictures of the tags to prove it, because I am not over exaggerating. This is legitimate. And at that price, I can never buy anything at that Goodwill and expect to flip it for an actual profit. Even though, let's say maybe I bought the pants at $60, I sell it at $80 after you take the Poshmark fees off, I'm not actually making any money. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't checked the comp. So just make sure you check your comp, even if the deal seems really good, or if you think the price is a little high but you still might be able to make money on it, I definitely recommend checking the comps. Finally, my number 5 mistake that I'm sharing with you today is not including the measurements on my listings. So there are lots of different reasons that I recommend putting measurements on your listings. Number 1 is return cases. I will put the measurements on there when customers say, oh, this didn't fit right, or oh, it's smaller than they said, or larger than they said. I can always say, you know, I put the approximate measurements to the nearest half or quarter inch on the listing. When you bought it, it was there in the description. And so I have definitely won some cases where it was the buyer's fault. At the same time though, I have also taken some returns for fit because there was some kind of like miscommunication about the size. Like, let's say it was a junior size 12 instead of an adult size 12, which would be very different fit wise. And even though the measurements were there, the customer was still upset. I took the return back anyway, because I would rather have a happy customer at the end of the day, and maybe somebody who will buy from my closet again, or at least not think I'm a mean person. I just want them to have a good image of my brand, you know, like that means more to me than taking that one return. So I'm a little bit of a pushover. That being said, I do have measurements on my listings because it helps me win return cases. Now, the second reason that it's really nice to have measurements on your listings is because people are going to ask you for the measurements on your listings. And if they're not already on there, every time that somebody asks for the measurements, you're going to have to get that item out of your storage, find it, and spend the time to like measure it and then put it away, which to me is like a lot of hassle, because I have like over 1,000 items at any one time, and I don't want to go find it if you're not buying it. And so putting the measurements on there is kind of my way of doing that work ahead of time and making it not future Rosie's problem to keep running back and forth when people want to ask what the inseam is, what the rise is, what the length is, whatever. That being said, there are some measurements that I just don't take. For example, I don't measure armpit to armpit on kids' clothes. I just put the size number, or I won't measure the strap length on bras because they're adjustable. So there are some things that I just hope that the buyer can use some common sense and just elaborate from there. It doesn't always work out for me that way, but you know, that's how online selling goes, is that you will meet all types of people. Those are the 5 mistakes that I made when I started selling online, and I hope that you can take those, move forward, and not make the same mistakes that I did. So if you're looking for more tips to help you on your reselling journey, you should definitely like and subscribe, and I will see you at the next video. Bye!